This is Ken Mercer, Mercer Moments in American History. Today I'm doing a special report on the anniversary or the memorial of October 7th, the year 2023, what I and many people call the second Holocaust, October 7th, the year 2023 in the nation of Israel. This is important to me because my fear is people will, and perhaps already, deny it even happened or somehow placed the blame on this massacre on Israel. I'm hoping that this week, as I'm talking, our college universities are also coming forward on this anniversary. How are they going to handle it? How will they talk about it in their classrooms? And forgive me again on this session. I don't wish to become graphic. I'm not trying to be graphic. There's no pictures I'm going to show. But you can see I have a lot of passion for what's happened, what I've seen. I'm trying to tie it all together or make sense. Let me give you a quick level set of the first Holocaust and how I got involved with this. In World War II, one of the people that I claim has been erased and deleted from history was General Dwight Eisenhower, who later became a U.S. president. In World War II, a lot of the young people do not know this. We were the very last nation to end the war. Everyone kept saying, "What are the Yanks are going to get here?" Well, the Germans, the National Socialists, the Nazis, that's what they were. The National Socialist Party had already occupied, overtaken, overrun, conquered 12 countries in Europe, and the next goal was England. And the armies of England, Canada, Australia, and the remnants of France and Poland looked to an American, Dwight Eisenhower, to lead, to be the supreme commander, to plan the D-Day, to reinvade and take back France and Europe. This is the same Eisenhower, what they call VE Day. I thought people understood V meant victory, E Europe. So Victory in Europe Day, when they came back and their soldiers went into France, went into Germany and other of the previously occupied countries, the Eisenhower headquarters began receiving these calls. Hey, we found people in the forest in prison uniforms, and on their shirts they had this star. And then we found these camps, and there were bodies there who'd been executed. And the other people who are still alive, and it was horrible. The disease, the sickness. And then the Russians called, well, you're in the west side of Germany, we're on the eastern side. We found these camps with these huge ovens where bodies were burned. And I think you know the ultimate thing was over 6 million Jewish children, women, and men. And Eisenhower was upset. He told his soldiers, go there and get all the evidence you can. Films, pictures, audio tapes, interviews. And have the townspeople of those camps, had them come and identify the bodies and pick them up and help bury the bodies. In fact, his exact words were this. Dwight D. Eisenhower, commanding general of the Allied forces, said, get it all on record now. Get the films, get the witnesses, because somewhere down the line, somewhere down the road of history, some bastard will say that this never happened. Almost prophetic what Eisenhower said, that people would deny the Holocaust of World War II. I tell you that story because when I was working for some of the standards we have for U.S. history in our textbooks and curriculum, and every state does this, but there was a group of national university professors, some of them very famous, some of them have endowed chairs. They had written a set of national standards they wanted every state to pass. National standards curriculum, no doubt their own textbooks that you could buy. But their goal was if you take their national class in high school for U.S. history, you can earn up to 2 years of graduation credit in U.S. history and up to 2 semesters of college credit, 6 semester hours. It was quite a deal. But when it came down to Texas, where I was serving then, I noticed what I was hoping is some weird mistake. In World War II, you had deleted the Holocaust. Deleted the Holocaust. And this argument I presented went on for months, several sessions, and they didn't back down. They said we didn't delete it, we just omitted it. If you can believe that, what I call the University of Gobbledygook. They didn't delete the Holocaust, they just omitted it. We went on to the final session. I was able to win that when they told me that they only cover major events, major moments in history. And I said, you're telling me that the murder of 6 million Jewish children and women and men was not a major event of World War II? We won that debate, but sadly, a lot of my colleagues were opposed to what I was saying, and the media was zero. The media was literally all lined up. They called it the textbook wars. The media was all there, national media, TV cameras, and because I was questioning the experts, and not in a mean, harsh way, but how could you leave out the Holocaust? I knew something then. It did not pass the smell test. And that's why October 7th, 2023 is so important to me, because I saw a repeat. I said, what's going on in our colleges and universities was very clear, very clear. They wanted to wipe out the Holocaust of World War II. And then we got to world history, and I meet with some people that even had examples of some books and maps. They would call Israel, are you ready for this? Israeli-occupied territory. And they were arguing in world history about the cause of the war in the Middle East, and it was overweight on Israel. And I argued against that. And it happened that same week period. I had friends from a church in San Antonio who were visiting Israel, and they were texting me back, Israel, one of the dimensions of Israel is about 75 to 90 miles, about the same of a trip from San Antonio to Austin in Texas. And they had hundreds of bombs and missiles come across. These people were visiting for a church trip to visit Israel for 8-10 days, and they were underground in bunkers, hiding. And I shared that at a live meeting. I said, could you imagine if 1 or 2 missiles hit what is called IH-35, Highway 35, everything be shut down? Could you imagine if hundreds came by in 1 week? I was just shocked at the attitude anti-Israel. And that's why October 7th, when I saw this, I said, God help us, do not let it happen again. And it did. As you saw the next day, within a few days after that, across our college campuses, not 1 or 2, across our nation, young people were out there protesting against Israel, and some of those already denying that it had happened, denying that it happened. This is so sad, but let's go back and let's talk about what happened that day, that October 7th. It was a music festival called the Nova Festival. People were literally outside dancing, celebrating. There all these missiles came across from the enemy side, hit the Iron Dome, and hundreds of missiles. Some say thousands, but I can safely say hundreds. And I realize now it's probably a military diversion attack by the Hamas Terrorist. Hamas Terrorist, who funded by Iran. And by the way, Iran had originally had like up to $10 billion, that's B with a B, dollars freed up, which America said, the politicians said that would not go to terrorism. That was humanitarian for food and water and schools and hospitals. None of that would go to terrorism. And all of a sudden, Iran, who was broke, all of a sudden was funding Hamas, who's attacking Israel. But at this music festival, they saw these rockets, and then they saw that what might have been a humorous sight, these men on these expensive gliders floating into the music festival. And they kept watching and realized it was not humorous. These men had weapons, and they were firing on a civilian population and killing all they could. And this is not a military operation. Some people try to confuse us. Oh, it was people friendly fire. No, it was not one military attacking another. It was one military, and the target were civilians. And the stories that came out in there were horrendous. I'm going to caution again, will not be graphic. I'm not going to do any pictures or photos. You can find plenty of those. But I would tell you, as I found more things in the BBC, the British Broadcasting, from the Israeli network, Israeli police forces, from forensic scientists, from other people that give us a lot more detail that I'm afraid we're not seeing in a place called the United States of America. But the BBC said that they had evidence of rape, sexual violence, and mutilation of women during the October 7th Hamas attacks. Another report said multiple signs of sexual assault, including broken pelvises. These women were so violently attacked. Broken pelvises, plural, not just one woman, many. Bruises, cuts. Victims range from children to teenagers to what the British call pensioners. Pensioners is a title, I guess, for retired people. And there is video testimony from Hamas, their cell phones and their own body cameras, of what had happened. It wasn't something that somebody made up. And it was shown to journalists by Israeli police. And it detailed, again, I will not be graphic, but it was gang rape. It is clearly to mutilate people, cut off body parts, and then execute them. And it was systematic. They had a new word called rape genocide. It wasn't genocide, it was rape genocide. It was terror at its worst. What I personally call, I have a term called EDS, E, evil, D, demonic, S, satanic. Evil, demonic, satanic. Some folks say, Mr. Mercer, you're being too strong. I think I'm hitting the nail on the head. It was evil, demonic, satanic, EDS, what happened that day. Stories of women who were raped and gang raped and then shot in the head, and after they were dead, the rape continued. What kind of people would do this? Inhuman. Inhuman. Somehow they found 18 survivors. No one was supposed to survive. And they had details of things like the Hamas had gone into homes, the small homes, and taken the whole family in there and tortured them, cut off body parts of some of the children, decapitated some of the kids, set some on fire alive in front of the parents, and then executed the whole family. And the reporters and the police and the military said they found little mounds of people who were in houses who were executed, entire families just defenseless, no weapons, just tortured, body parts cut off, executed. And little hills of women who were piled up, who were oftentimes naked or half naked. Lifeless bodies, but they could tell what happened to the women. And again, there were 18 people they found who were survivors, who were people who fought dead, who'd been attacked and left for dead, and described more than what happened. But here's what they're saying. These 18 survivors, the BBC says, are currently receiving psychiatric treatment. What they saw, what they witnessed, brutal murderers, they're not able to talk. They're incoherent. 18 people in psychiatric hospitals. What they saw was so, again, evil, demonic, satanic. They were just in shock. Why don't we hear about that? Why don't we hear those stories? You know, one minister, May Golan, says that I spoke to at least 3 girls who are now hospitalized. And again, very hard psychiatric situation because of the rapes they watched. And many of those who survived are considered suicidal because they survived. We couldn't stop it. They were being attacked too. They couldn't help anybody. And they survived, and now they're suicidal. Again, 18 young men and women have been hospitalized in mental health hospitals because they could no longer function. Again, others are reportedly suicidal. The BBC says some have already killed themselves. And again, at the festival site, there were small shelters were filled with piles of women. I'll share more about it. You know how horrible it was, but here's the concerning part was in the next 3 days, across our colleges and universities, not 1 or 2, across our nation, there were protests going up against Israel, and many students denying that it even happened, denying that 1,200 people were tortured and murdered, assassinated, executed, and 251 were taken hostage. What's wrong with these students? There are reports of families on the first 3 days. It lasted 5 days. But the first few days, they didn't know the 1,200 who were missing had been killed. They didn't know how many were taken hostage, but they had posters of their loved ones. Could be a son, a daughter, brother, sister, mother, father, grandparent. They had posters. And on the East Coast, we saw them in the subways, the bus stations, other areas. We're looking for a loved one. Pray for them. And we had people, and you saw it. You're an eyewitness. College students coming by. Females was the most concerning to me. And one by one, tearing down those posters, denying that it happened, or either denying it happened or somehow implying it was deserved. And we even have politicians in America. When you talk about October 7, 2023, what is wrong with these people? How can they even be in office? Are they insane? Or what I call, I have another term, I call it FLZS, F-L-Z-S, the F, far left zombie syndrome. No matter what you show them, You can't change their minds, no matter what they see. And we had students that way. And I see all these campuses all of a sudden across the country had Palestinian flags, Hamas flags. Where did that come from? Who paid for that? I work at groups to try to raise money every year that on Memorial Day we try to have flags for the headstone. Every military man and woman who served, who was down in National Cemetery. And that cost money and plenty to raise that money to get all those American flags made. Who's making Palestinian flag? What is the demand for Palestinian flags or Hamas memorabilia? And yet we saw it across the nation. I tie all this to what I call Politics 101. Follow the money, honey. Politics 101. Follow the money, honey. The Department of Education has traced money, and the Department of Ed has not done a good job. But they've at least been able to collect some direct donations from foreign entities to our colleges and universities. In the last 40 years, the money they can easily detect is $55 billion to over 40 years to 200 plus American colleges and universities. It's about $1.25 billion, $1.5 billion per year, every year for 40 years to about 200 American colleges and universities. And I wonder, what is that money? It doesn't mean that all donations are bad. There's a lot of donations for medical research or for engineering, petroleum, chemical, electrical, mechanical, but they're giving money to our colleges, and our colleges are accepting it. In fact, some of those nations have some of the worst human rights abuses on record in the world, and the worst abuse of women. Why would universities take money from nations that have the worst records of abuses toward people, especially toward women? But a lot of those donations come from nations who hate Israel. In fact, they will not even recognize the existence of Israel. Why take that money knowing there could be some strings attached? When you see campuses spontaneously across the nation again, as I mentioned earlier, but without arrest, without suspensions, I would suggest to you it's Politics 101. Follow the money, honey. Because a lot of those countries, again, they hate Israel. And there's some mathematical equation. It seems like if they hate Israel, that equals hate America. And it reflects, if they hate America, guess who they hate? Israel. I'm just so saddened about this. And I see what's happening on October 7th, 2023. What will our colleges and universities say this week? What will our churches and synagogues say? What we do now, but especially our colleges. And when will you apologize to those Jewish students? And when will you take those students who committed crimes, committed physical crimes against other students and on campus, destroyed monuments, destroyed buildings, when are you going to expel them? When are you going to send them back to their host nation? Or is Politics 101, follow the money, honey? Is it too much ingrained in your school? And you rather take the money and then sit back and do nothing, like a bribe. Like a bribe. I know you can feel I'm passionate about this, but I'm really upset and concerned because I think again about General Eisenhower. Nobody knows who denied it ever happened. I think about what happened in the textbook wars in my home state and across the nation. It wasn't just, it goes on in every state. Every few years when you're adopting new standards for U.S. and world history, where people just want to delete, not even talk about the Holocaust or World War II. What are they going to talk about this week? What were our colleges and universities, what would our news media talk about the Holocaust of October 7, 2023? What are they going to say? You know, I usually wear a college garb. You know, if you see my program before, a certain university and give a shout out, but I'm giving a shout out today to our Jewish students in America. They need our encouragement. They need our prayers. When I see on campus how they're being attacked on campus, attacked in the buses, attacked in the subways, attacked in the airports, what is going on? And I find some of my friends, Christian students who are standing with their brothers and sisters, their Jewish brothers and sisters, and now they're being targeted also. There's a country where students are afraid to wear the Star of David. There's a country where some kids are afraid even to wear the cross of Christ on campus and stand with their Jewish friends. And that country, that's not somewhere in Africa, that is not somewhere in the Middle East, that is a place called the United States of America. That should never, never, never happen in our country, but it's happening as I speak. And I wonder what's going to happen now, this first anniversary memorial of the second Holocaust, October 7th, 2023. Let me leave it with one little item. There's a movie coming out. I mentioned how the celebration of the Nova Festival that day was a dance. They're all dancing. They came for celebration. There was a Jewish holiday, and how the missiles came across and hit the Iron Dome. And apparently it was a diversionary attack. And when they saw the people on these expensive, who paid for all those hang gliders, so many of them, and they realized it wasn't some humorous event. It was an attack. And again, when I see what happened in our college universities, when I see university administrators, president universities, not trying to help their Jewish students, and when I see them go to Congress, and you talk about University of Gobbledygook or University of Babylon, when they're asked, why weren't you helping out these students? What do you define as terrorism? And when I find some politicians in America right now who are defending Hamas, students who are wearing pro-Hamas gear on school, and somehow blaming Israel. As I speak this week, there's a documentary coming out worldwide. It's in Europe right now. I believe to come to the U.S. pretty soon. It's called We Will Dance Again. They will dance again. Again, the theme was on that Nova Festival, they were dancing, We Will Dance Again. I've heard it's probably a good documentary. But what disturbs me is apparently the documentary could not be presented for film, could not be broadcast, could not be released until they agreed they would not associate Hamas with the word terrorist. I kid you not. Check me out. Go online. Please check me. They wouldn't release the documentary until they agreed they would not have Hamas as being terrorist. If you know what happened October 7, 2023, again, a purposeful, willful, systematic, planned attack, and again, the evidence from the own cell phones and the body cameras of the Hamas terrorist, and finally, a year later, to have a documentary come out. And some of the political powers on high, whatever, said you cannot release the documentary if you refer to Hamas as terrorist. I hope they change that. Make me wrong. Please make me wrong. But if that's not terrorism, if being evil, demonic, and satanic, and I'm not going to repeat all the things that happened because, again, it's so graphic, and I apologize if I upset some of y'all, but I can tell you, you probably only saw 1/10, if even that much, of what really happened. This is Ken Mercer of Mercer Moments in American History. Again, today, my shout out is to all the Jewish students here in America. There are people who will stand with you, who want to encourage you, who love you and pray for you. And there are a lot of Christian students out there doing the same thing. Now, there are some Christian churches out there, I'm speaking to their churches now, who are doing nothing. Assurance and stand for something. This is wrong. This is evil by anybody's definition, and this is terrorism. The strength in America, it's been our churches and our synagogues, it's been our faith and our values and our worship, and more than any time in recent times. We need our faith and values. We need our worship in our churches and synagogues and other places of worship. I invite you to come back, tell the truth, and stand up. And it's time to call evil, evil. And it's time to call terrorist, terrorist. This is Ken Mercer, Mercer Moments in American History. I always close with the same thing, and it fits in here too. I've always believed the strength and the secret of America is as simple as this. What's always brought us back and brought us together is that in God, we still trust. I can't explain what happened October 7, 2023. And some of you would say, Mr. Mercer, where was God? God was there. And God gave us free will to make our own choices. And some people made a very evil choice, very evil. But I tell you this, in God we still trust. We should come back and stand for our Jewish brothers and sisters and our Jewish students. Thank you. God bless you. God protect you.